Okay, so we now have a quorum, so let's open our meeting at 7:08. And do we have any minutes available for review?
I think I saw Leah circulate several sets of them, either earlier in the day. Did everybody receive those?
No, I last checked my email before I left today at 4:30.
I got them.
I have not.
I received them.
I got them too.
I didn't see
Like I just said, I left at 4:30. They hadn't been sent by then.
them, so.
It's like 4:38. Just a couple minutes.
At when?
4:38.
Oh. Okay, that would make sense. Well, since we don't all have the minutes available here, I don't think we can review and approve anything.
If you'd like, I can try to pull them up on my screen really quickly and screen share, if that's useful.
If that works.
Yeah, if you're comfortable that you think a decision can be made based upon a quick review of the minutes, and that's acceptable. If you think you want more time to review them until the next meeting, that's fine too.
Okay, let's see, I'm almost there. Please bear with me just another second.
While Dominique's doing that, who else in the meeting, just so I can record it?
Mr. Chairman, if,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, please go ahead and respond to Leah's question, perhaps.
I didn't hear that.
Who's here?
Oh. Well, we have Mitch, Brian, Dominique, Dave, myself, and Melissa.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Mr. Chairman, would you like me to do a quick overview of the minutes prepared by Leah? Can you all see this on my screen?
Yeah.
Okie dokie. So we have in front of us the meeting minutes of 29th of April. Membership, let's see, Dave, Dominique, Norm, Lisa, Mitch, Melissa, Brian, Tim, Tyler, Leah. Absent Kate, Ron, St. Angelo, and my colleague Claire.
Can you
Let's
zoom
see.
in on that a little bit?
Sorry?
Can you zoom in a little bit on it?
I can try. Hold on.
It's readable, but just barely.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. We can zoom in
Ah, beautiful.
like that. Can you see now?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, excellent. So that's a record of attendance. If no modifications, we'll move on. So motion to waive recording of meeting announcements, standard. Public comment, nothing. There was nobody there as per usual. Benchmark review update. Dave completed the benchmark review, 80% complete. He and Norm working to finish up the remaining info. Open space and recreation piece, we're going to be working with DPW. So again, back in April, community survey, revision review. So simply discussion on how to revise the survey. And a detailed list of revisions therein. I think that's pretty much it on that. All again, this pertains to the survey. More revisions to the survey are detailed. Discussion on how to launch the survey and how many responses we're aiming for. Aiming for perhaps 600, which you exceeded. Next item, outreach and promotion. I think that stands. And motion to publish the survey pending edits, which you did. And then we went on to talk about the vision statement development. And a visioning exercise that is detailed. Any questions on this? Next meeting, review of interim tasks. We handle that every single meeting. That's pretty standard. Interim tasks, promote the website. Acceptance of the meeting minutes, which were bumped due to lack of a quorum, I think probably in the beginning of the meeting. That was approved and then adjourned.
Okay, I don't see any problem with anything. I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes of, I think it was April 29th, was it?
Correct.
Would someone like to make that motion?
I'll move. Danza.
Do I have a second? Second, somebody.
Whiteman will second.
I'll second.
In favor?
You need a
Aye.
roll call for this because you have remote participants.
Oh, boy.
Sorry, no.
Yeah, roll call, okay. I'm gonna start right here. Melissa?
Danza, aye.
Mitch?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Leah?
Aye.
Norm? I think that's all we have, right? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'll move on to the next set of minutes from May 27th, 2021. Call to order, present Dave George, myself, Norm, Lisa, Mitch, Brian, Tyler, Tim, Leah. No changes, I'll move on. As per standard, motion to waive the reading of the open meeting recording announcement. Motion passed. Public comment, none. There was nobody from the public besides you all present. Community survey results. We did a preliminary review of the results to date. At that point, there had been about 200 responses, and just there's subsequent discussion about how to increase outreach efforts, which are detailed here. And vision statement development. So we worked further on strategy articulation via the vision statement, which is detailed. And then simply next meeting and review of interim tasks. We summarized the things that everybody would do and work on, including continued promotion and continue visioning, brainstorming. There was no other business as promotion 7, and we adjourned.
I
Questions?
have a question. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yes,
Leah?
yes.
So I think that for the next all the next sets of minutes, May, June, July, which we didn't actually have a quorum for the meeting, in August, I'm not sure we have a quorum of members that were in attendance of that meeting. Can we still vote with the abstaining members, even though we have a quorum for this meeting, but not a quorum of the meeting attendance?
Is there anyone here that was not here on that May
Me.
27th?
I wasn't here in May.
You weren't. Then you really can't vote.
I watched the recording.
You did.
I did.
Close enough?
I mean, this is in your case, because you watched the video, because this is not a commission like conservation or
Yeah.
planning board, you're
Yeah.
required to attest that you watched the video and sign the Mullins disclaimer.
Yeah.
I think,
Seems to me that should be good enough.
I mean, this is a board, we're trying to run this as much in compliance with the open meeting law as possible, although it's not strictly required.
Mhm.
But we've chosen to do that as much as that's possible.
Yeah.
So maybe if you're comfortable
Mhm.
in voting on this, then I would probably leave it to your discretion to,
I'm
The
comfortable
vote-
if you're comfortable. Then.
Okay. Then how about a motion to accept?
Did we first go over again?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Oh, I had one question. Whoops, disappeared. Okay, I guess I must have been seeing things. Oh,
Mr. Chairman, which
Oh,
section
yeah,
do you have a question
yeah.
on?
At the very, very beginning.
Sure.
And okay, it's gotta be something with my memory. You have listed as absent as Ron San Angelo. Is he a member of this committee?
I think,
If I may.
Yeah.
Oh, Dave can answer. He had attended the very first meeting, and I don't think it was ever clear how many meetings he would be attending or not. So I can easily remove him if that's the pleasure of the board. Or the committee. I have no preference.
Yeah, because and again, my recollection may be wrong, but I don't think we made him an ad hoc member or anything like that.
That's my understanding as well,
Yeah,
consistent with yours and Leah's. I think Ron was there as the town administrator, to be party to the kickoff,
yeah,
to just check in with the board members and check in with the process. He may attend from time to time, but I think your recollection is correct.
okay.
That, I don't believe his attendance was mandatory,
Mhm.
as in everybody else here, or, highly recommended, or however you wanna put it. So I would tend to agree, Norm.
Okay. So you want to make a motion to accept the minutes with the correction of deleting Ron San Angelo from the
So moved.
absentee list? Do I have a second?
Second,
Second.
White,
Guild, second.
Okay, any discussion, any further discussion? Okay, in favor then, Melissa,
Dan's eye.
Mitch,
Aye.
Brian,
Did we just determine I can vote on this or no? I listened to that whole dialogue about who was here and who wasn't here, and who could accept the minutes, and
He's not on here for this purpose. It's
Okay.
the same issue as before. I mean,
okay, you weren't here. Did you watch it on video?
no.
No. Then, no.
Okay.
So we don't have a quorum to vote on that one.
I think the best you can maybe do at this point
Just
is consider this to be draft minutes approved with the members who are able to approve them. And maybe we just label these as draft, and then we can distribute them to the public in that format. And if you can come back and get the formal vote at some point when it makes sense to do it, but we should get these out to the public. So I would just recommend that. We're trying to work with best practice as much as possible, given the constraints. So you could, what do you have? You have, 1, 2, take the vote you can take. If Brian needs to abstain, we'll just record that as an abstention. Then maybe later on, we can reconfirm the vote at some future point. I don't think this is very controversial with the minutes.
I don't think anybody's gonna pay any attention to it.
Let's say I'm pretty comfortable with them, the way they're written.
Yeah.
I didn't watch the meeting.
Okay. So anyway, see, we had an aye from Mitch, I think. Leah?
Whitman, aye.
Okay, Melissa, did you say aye?
yes, I was first.
Aye. Anderson, aye. Okay. Done with that.
Mr. Chairman, shall I move on to the June 24th minutes? Okay, we had a hybrid meeting, in person and virtual via Zoom. Present Dave George, Norm, Kate, Mitch, Tyler, and Leah. And present via Zoom myself, Lisa, and Desiree. Absent Ron again, Claire Baylor. I think moving forward, since she's not on the committee and she's also not currently involved in this, then we should probably remove her too. So absent Ron, Claire, Melissa, Brian, and Tim. Minutes, there were none. I guess we didn't have a quorum.
Okay.
There was no quorum.
Now, if we didn't have a quorum, there's no minutes to accept.
Correct. So this would then just a working group meeting. Public comment, none. There was nobody from the public there that evening. We did finalize the vision, work through the vision statement. We had a discussion about that and we went over it. And the committee worked through that with some wordsmithing, and I think came up with a really effective vision statement. Let's see, what else? It looks like the motion to approve, so it looks like we did eventually get a quorum here. So there was a motion to approve and it passed with 6 people. The first half of this vision statement. Then we moved on to developing the second half of the vision statement, also effective, and there was a motion to adopt, to adopt the second half of the vision statement, which passed with 6 again. And then a third paragraph, again, passed with 6. So the entire vision statement was adopted in full. So let's see, next we reviewed some initial goals and, we had a survey update. So at that point we'd had 500 responses, talked a little bit about that. We talked about outreach for the vision statement after Labor Day, so now's the time. We tabled item 6, which was a photo contest, on the agenda for tonight. And next meeting, interim tasks. As per standard, we reviewed everything that we all intended to do. No other business, and adjournment. Any questions on that one, or corrections?
Other than what was noted, I don't see anything. Except I'm getting more and more confused all the time. Can we approve these?
I think it's the same thing as before, to consider these to be draft. Take the vote you can take with the members that you have here.
Okay,
We can release them to the public, and then you can maybe reconfirm the vote when you have the members so listed at a later time. I don't think there's a controversy here with doing that. We're trying to adhere to best practice as much as possible in open meeting law.
so, motion to approve with
I'll
corrections.
move to approve, since I did review the recording as well.
With corrections,
With corrections, yes.
okay.
Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Gill, second.
Second, okay. Any further discussion? Okay, here we go, roll call again. Mitch,
Aye.
Brian, were you there?
I don't think so.
Let me see. No, you weren't there.
See, I
Okay,
think I missed more than I thought, I
Yeah.
guess.
Okay. Leah?
Seems like I picked the summer off.
Yeah. Leah?
Whiteman, aye. Whiteman, aye.
Dan's
Melissa? Aye. Anderson? Aye.
Is that 4-0-1 again?
Yes.
Got it.
Moving on then,
Moving on,
to the
yes.
minutes of July 29th.
Oh,
A hybrid meeting. The members present waited until 7:20, but there was no quorum reached, so the meeting was not opened and everyone was dismissed.
okay. So, nothing to approve there.
Nothing to approve. And I think that is it. So I think only the meeting minutes from August are left to review.
Dominique, it's Leah. I sent the meeting minutes from August right after I sent the whole batch of the other ones. Did you
Oh.
receive them or not?
That's a great question.
I received them.
I'm not seeing them. I'm so sorry. I'm searching my inbox for them. I got them. Excuse me. I have them, rather. Okie dokie. Here we are. All right. The meeting minutes of our 8th Master Plan Steering Committee meeting of 26th August, a hybrid meeting. 7:10 p.m. opened and called to order. President Dave George, Gabe from CMRPC, Norm, Kate, Mitch, and Leah, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, and then we also had people present via Zoom, and Lisa, Tim, and Leah. So certainly quorum. Absent Ron San Angelo, not officially a member as far as we're aware. Claire Bailey from CMRPC also not assigned to this project at this time anymore. And then Melissa and Brian Tyler were absent. There were, the minutes were not on hand, so we didn't have those to approve. There was no public comment as nobody was present from the general public. We reviewed, Gabe, I was absent, so Gabe walked the committee through the survey results. There were 850 respondents, which is tremendous, and 875, which I, again, wanted to commend you all on your great job with outreach. Somehow those numbers really bumped up and I think came together to be quite a generous sample, given the subject matter and this total population of the town. So congratulations on that. A few members commented from the presentation that they didn't like word clouds and would like to see some other types of quantitative analysis or something more qualitative, but not word clouds, so we'll work on that. We had a brief recess to reset the Zoom meeting and then went through goals and recommendations. So my understanding, based per these minutes, is that the committee reviewed some draft preliminary goals established for housing, economic development, and land use chapters, which is this phase of the master plan that were derived from both the survey results, basic analysis of trends and data in town and best practices. So the draft goals as presented to the committee that evening are presented here. We will be working through presenting revisions based on input and other things tonight. So those are all there. And there were some takeaways included therein that indicate where these results come from. So let's see, and then also tabled were a photo contest that is up for discussion tonight. We went through the next meeting and interim tasks as per usual. Other business, Leah asked if the town center study package could be shared with the master plan committee and added to Dropbox. Absolutely. Gabe, have we done that? And if not, can we do that tomorrow morning?
Yeah, I can do that.
Excellent.
I can try to do that tonight too.
Wonderful. And adjournment. Any questions or edits?
I think the only thing, Leah, I just saw you listed as in person and Zoom in both places.
I just heard that when, I was on Zoom, so I'll edit that when I edit the attendance of Ron and Claire and everything also. Thank you.
Very good.
Okay.
Motion to approve with the edits.
Do I have a second?
Gill, second.
Second. Okay, any discussion? No? Then in favor?
Danza,
Melissa?
aye.
Mitch?
Aye.
Ryan? Vote anyway.
I guess a 401, I guess, so.
I'll take that as an aye.
Yeah, aye, sounds great.
Yeah, okay.
Maria.
Leah?
Whiteman, aye.
Anderson, aye. Okay. Done with minutes. Which, next item says review goals and recommendations. Dominique?
Great, so sorry about that. Okay, so again, apologize for not being able to be with you at the last meeting, but I understand that you had a productive review of, and some tweaking of these goals. We've taken back any comments and also modified some of them. So I'd like, my hope tonight is that, we can walk through these again, especially in their edited form, and confirm that these both resonate with you as community and committee members. Once these are approved, hopefully tonight, at least in their draft form, we will begin and or continue working on the next tiers of strategy articulation, which be increasingly more detailed ways of achieving these goals. So it would be, objectives and then action items, all with the idea of, trying to advance the vision statement that you established before. Eventually, pretty soon in this process, we would normally advise taking these to the community for preliminary feedback to make sure that, there's consensus on them, but maybe we can take it from the top. So in terms of, was everybody here, and does everybody remember going through this last meeting? Yeah,
Vaguely.
okay.
Yes.
So I'll just, since most of this is recap, I'll plan to take it quickly, but slow me down if you need or want. Section 1, housing goals. So goal 1, recommend new housing development, prioritize preservation of open space, utilize low impact development methods that are consistent with community location and style preferences. I see that you added, looks like add recommend. So there may be, sensing there's some,
Oh, I made some small edits, kind of trying to incorporate some of the feedback from last time. But if that was inappropriate, we can revert to the prior version. But I thought, just Dominique, for your information, I think the rest of the highlighted ones are really the ones that needed more discussion after the last meeting.
Okay.
The rest, I think there was strong consensus around. So
okay.
really, these 3 I think were the ones
Okay.
that we're stuck on.
Well, let's take it with these 3, and then if we want to, work through them and then take it from the top and adopt them or not, at least in draft form. Okay, so recommend new housing development prioritizes preservation of open space, utilizes low impact development methods, and are consistent with community location and style preferences. So clearly tweaked to be a little bit less prescriptive and provide more flexibility. Goal 4, pursue policies and partnerships that will support the development of truly affordable housing. Goal 5, improve streetscape and pedestrian infrastructure to support future housing development and its impacts on traffic volume. What do you think?
Is this final language, or is this still gonna be wordsmithed?
I think it could be wordsmithed further.
The wording in number 1 is horrible.
It's pretty unwieldy. It's quite a mouthful for sure.
Well,
Let's take a moment, since everybody's here, and at least try to take this into a reasonable mouthful. Maybe it's more than one goal here.
well,
So recommend new housing development.
that prioritizes.
Prioritizes preservation. Oh, sorry, let me turn on my editing. Apologize for that. Prioritizes preservation of open space, utilizes low impact development methods, and is consistent with community location style preferences. Thoughts on how to tweak this one?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, maybe should we try to flesh out what we mean by style preferences? I'm not sure I fully understand what that means.
So is that speaking to, I forget, with Rutland's master plan survey, did we have the different visuals, we added the different images, I think, for the housing section, such as the cottage style community and all those different graphics.
Well, that was in the plan. Is that what's being referred to here? Style of dwelling units?
Yep.
So types of dwelling units, okay.
Yep. So types of dwelling units, I think, might be more on the nose. In types, or let's see. The new housing development prioritizes preservation of open space, utilizes low impact development methods, and is consistent with community location and preferences, maybe. That would encapsulate both types of housing and aesthetic elements. What do you think? Did that clean that up?
I still think you need the word "that" in between development and prioritizes.
Oh, perfect. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's okay. So starting the sentence off with recommend, and I understand why one might choose to do that, to be a little less forceful. It still comes off as a little strange linguistically, in my opinion. Is there a way that we can, do you have any vision for how we might
The original word was ensure, but I think the concern last time, which is why I modified it, was like, Rutland basically already has some open space bylaws. They have some, they have bylaws in place that do sort of already address this. So, I remember the concern was like, how do we actually ensure this?
Can we encourage it instead? Encourage, perhaps?
It's Leah. I would say encourage or maybe prioritize or something. I'm not sure. I'm still on just call in, so I don't see the screen right now. But can't remember the verbiage of the rest of the our goals and recommendations. But yeah.
I think encouraging sort of toes the line nicely between being very forceful in a community that may have mixed feelings about some of these things, while also pursuing, forward-looking policies. I think, encouraging might toe the line, find a nice balance there, but it's up to you guys.
I like encouraging.
So let's try it out. Okay, encourage housing development. No, okay, so just thinking back to your survey, do we have support for encouraging new housing development at all, or should we encourage that housing development, whatever sort prioritizes these? So maybe encourage, there's just some nuance to how you phrase it, right? Unless the community really wants to encourage new housing development. So encourage housing development to prioritize. I don't know. Does anybody?
It's Leah. I thought from the survey data there was some want to have more affordable housing, and what that looks like. I don't think we defined, officially what affordable housing is, but I think that if we're going to, the new housing is inevitable, and so how do we prioritize that or encourage what types of housing those are utilized? I'm not sure if I don't think I'm speaking clearly, but
that made sense to me, Leah. I don't want to dominate your meeting, but I think perhaps we could say something. Just we were pretty close there. So encourage housing developments that prioritize preservation of open space, utilize low impact development methods. You don't even have to say methods. Oops, sorry, just to clean that up. Encourage housing developments that prioritize preservation of open space, utilize low impact development, maybe do methods there, and are consistent with community location and preferences. How does the group feel about that?
I guess maybe I'm still focusing on preferences, like preferences of what?
Okay.
I'm kind of not understanding what my options are there.
Okay. Okay,
Or what preferences are trying to describe.
Let's see. Dwelling unit and aesthetic preferences.
I mean, when you go back to the survey is talking about single-family detached dwellings, multi-family dwellings attached. You're talking about, the technical definitions of dwelling. I believe that's what the gist of the survey was, right? Because it was a promotion of different types of housing styles and types,
That's correct.
So maybe we just call it what it is, and the most efficient way to do that. I mean,
Style types and style and type preferences.
well, dwelling unit types, right?
Dwelling unit
Is that
types.
what we're trying to describe?
I think I think that would be my focus. Dwelling unit preferences. Stylistic things can be articulated elsewhere. So encourage housing developments that prioritize preservation of open space, utilize low impact development methods, and are consistent with community location and dwelling unit preferences. Mr. Chairman, since you had first initiated discussion on this goal as being, at least, I think, as we said, a mouthful, how do you feel that this cleans it up? Or do you feel that this?
Yeah, I like this a lot better. Yeah. I'm happy with it.
Any other discussion or thoughts from the rest of the committee members? Okay. So we can move on just real quick. So again, back to goal 4, pursue policies and partnerships that will support the development of truly affordable housing. I think that's succinct and to the point. Any discussion on that?
It's a pretty plain, blunt statement.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Great. Goal 5 then. Improve streetscape and pedestrian infrastructure to support future housing development and its impact on traffic volume.
That makes sense.
Okay. Any discussion or thoughts on goal 5? All right, so would you like to recap? Shall we just very quickly recap the rest of the goals that were already worked through the previous meeting?
Dominique, and through the chair, if I may, it's Leah.
Yeah, go.
I think one of my questions at our previous meeting was that a lot of the survey data was kind of not super keen on growth, and we know, I feel like a broken record. We know that that's inevitable, but is there a way that we can somehow capture the survey results of a majority of the respondents not necessarily wanting a whole lot of new growth, balanced with that we're aiming to do it in that smart, sustainable manner. I think that these goals and objectives are better capturing that, but can the rest of the members just comment to that? Maybe my observation is totally off base too, so tell me that too, please.
I'd like to hear from the other committee members. While you do, I'm also going to review the land use goals too that may address that more clearly than the housing goals.
And I think it also, on goal 2, it talked about, in the housing, the sustainable, pursue creative policies that support the sustainable development of new housing units and expand the diversity of housing options. So it does kind of separate it into 2, so it's not just about sustainable development.
Mitch, what do you think? You're muted.
Sorry. From discussing from the last meeting, number one, I'm fine with, but we have an open space bylaw, and I think that's what we should be encouraging new housing development, is to utilize that. But I'm fine with the way 1's worded. And 2 and 3, I don't have an issue with. Pursue policies, partnerships that will support development of truly affordable housing. I'm okay with that one too. And 5, that one was changed from previous.
I don't have the original version of this, and
I can pull up the original.
But this one's worded better. I don't have an issue with it.
Yeah, I reworded it, but I was kind of trying to make it a little more concise and
Right.
straightforward. So.
I think the last meeting, 3 was the only one that we had a comment with. The residential development, I'm sorry, yeah. And the numbers on the old one are off too, 1, 2, 4, I guess it's number 3.
okay.
Yeah, Mitch, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I missed that a minute ago. I remember at the last meeting, we spent a lot of time talking about design guidelines, talking about that. There's not an historic districts commission, there's no historic districts, there's not an historical commission that would.
Usually historic district, like areas down the Cape, existing historic buildings. That was the only one I remember having an issue with.
Yeah, I think we discussed that a lot too, and also, there's no way to enforce design guidelines
Right.
currently in the town. And I believe from prior conversations with others and also looking at some of the history, I'm not sure there's an appetite to have a design advisory committee in town to regulate the design of structures, residential structures. I think if there's any kind of design guidelines, those would come into play in the TC zoning district. We have the possibility of commercial and residential. There's some slight control on that, only in TC, but I don't think that is something which would be universally applied elsewhere in town. And that was, I believe, was problematical for those reasons, if I'm recalling correctly.
I agree.
So, does anybody on this call disagree with the suggestion of potentially removing this? If the TC zoning district is the only place in which design guidelines might be applicable or appropriate, and this section is specific to housing, how would you feel about taking this out?
I agree, remove it.
Does anybody disagree? Okay.
I always get real shaky when you start trying to, you know, try to govern aesthetics. That's wow.
I am simply going to excerpt it, take it out of there. It's removed from the housing section. I'm going to preserve it for consideration, especially for the town center zoning district, just in case. But we can broach that subject when we get down to the economic development section. Okay, all right. So, everybody comfortable with the remaining 4 housing goals? They include, the open space stuff, utilizing low impact development methods, ensuring that housing that is coming is consistent with community preferences, working towards provision of diverse housing options in a sustainable manner, policies and partnerships for affordable housing, and ensuring that you have the infrastructure to support traffic volumes so things don't get bogged down through new housing developments that could come online. Did we cover everything? Seems pretty comprehensive.
Looks good to me.
If something, if we're working through developing draft objectives and something comes up as needing a supporting goal, we'll bring it back to you guys. As such, let's move on unless someone would like to go back. So economic development goals that were reviewed last time. To recap, goal 1, encourage development of essential services within the town, such as grocery stores, restaurants, and other small businesses. I remember a clear call for that in the survey. Goal 2, identify key areas for specific types of development within town and create mechanisms to ensure development in those areas. Let me go read that again for my own edification. Identify key areas for specific types of development within the town and create mechanisms to encourage development in those areas. Does everybody understand that?
Yeah.
Goal 3, grow and diversify the commercial tax base to promote a fiscally sound future and allow the town to provide and improve services, including but not limited to recreational opportunities and pedestrian infrastructure. So attracting businesses to be able to have the amenities that the town needs and wants, including essential services. Goal 4, ensure that all economic development initiatives are considered in the context of residents' desire to maintain Rutland's natural beauty and small town character. So economic development is important, but none that compromises these essential Rutland values of natural beauty and small town character. Goal 5, improve the town's streetscape and sidewalks to allow and promote more pedestrian and bicycle access to the town's businesses. I think that's self-explanatory. Any initial thoughts upon re-reviewing these, guys?
I don't know, I may be totally out of place here. But I'm thinking back to 2 nights ago when we finished up a very, very contentious planning board meeting regarding an application for a major home occupation. And the one thing that has kind of grown from all of that is that we really have very, very little property in town that is reasonably zoned for someone that wants to open a, let me say, a reasonably small but non-rural looking business. And maybe I shouldn't do this, but I'm just gonna give the example that we just went through. We had a guy that started a sort of a forestry service. He has 2 or 3 pieces of fairly heavy equipment and was trying to operate this out of his house. And some of the neighbors, really complained about the noise and all that kind of nice stuff. And I'm not saying he wouldn't be able to find another place to do this in town, but there aren't very many. So I don't know, would it fit in either economic or land use goals to include some kind of a encouragement to make more of that kind of property rezoned or, available?
Mr. Chairman, I think that's a totally valid strategy. I wonder if it is the next tier of strategy articulation, though. So after these goals are pretty well nailed down, hopefully tonight we'll move on to objective development, which will outline specific strategies to help advance these goals. So I think, rezoning, exploring rezoning of X, Y, or Z, or establishment of new base zoning districts or new overlays, so that would be subsequent to this.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, if I could just jump in too, I think as a general goal, number 2, identify key areas for specific types of development, contractors' yards within the town to create mechanisms, zoning changes to encourage development in those areas.
Mm-hmm.
The area is newly zoned to accommodate the contractor yard. So goal 2, in a very general manner, I think gets us there. And that can be fleshed out maybe as a specific next step action item that supports the goal somehow.
Okay, works for me. I just wanted to mention it just because of what we've just really kind of been through,
Yeah.
Let's make sure I'm going to stick that in our notes section, Gabe, if you can, as our executive note taker, if you can also make sure we include that in our objective development is zoning for, what kind of use would you say that is?
I would say, if I could I would call it very generally a contractor's yard, in the most general term possible.
Perfect. We'll come back to that then. Perfect. Thank you so much. Great comment, Mr. Chairman. Okay, other thoughts on, sorry, that's land use. Other thoughts on the economic development goals as they stand? So to look at them comprehensively, we have one that focuses on consumer-facing businesses and amenities that may or may be missing or needed in greater amounts. Focusing on zoning in goal 2 and sort of looking at land use for development purposes. Goal 3, we're looking at tax base. Goal 4, we're building in the sort of preservation aspects and ensuring that economic development is balanced with what makes Rutland already special. And then 5, making sure we provide some infrastructure in terms of pedestrian bicycle facilities, which is essential to economic development. So we all know there's a strong connection between getting people out of their cars and dollars spent in nearby businesses. So I think that's probably, could be an objective too, but it works as a goal, I think. Are we missing anything? Anything Rutland specific?
It's Leah, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Okay, I'm back online so I can see everything. So some feedback that I've gotten recently, and I don't know maybe we don't worry about it, I don't know. But the town doesn't own a lot of land. We know that, we just had this conversation. So a lot of the land is privately owned, and it's either not developed for commercial use or not necessarily accessible for the types of businesses that are looking to come into town. So there's been a couple businesses that have, wanted to start in Rutland, but there was no available space that fit their model. And so I don't know how the town can work with developers and people looking to bring business into town to kind of, they're not necessarily large businesses. It's not a grocery store. It's not a large restaurant that's necessarily going to bring a ton of income to the developer, but I don't know, and maybe Rutland just doesn't have it. I don't know.
I'm not sure I have a straightforward answer to that question myself. How do you do development when you have a fairly well built out community that also prioritizes preservation of its, heritage landscapes and agricultural character? Depending on what type of business, maybe it's encouraging home-based occupations and making those really easy to, depending on what kind of, somebody was going to speak them. Dave, Mitch, Norm?
Yeah, I have a thought on it. That makes me think, I'd like to see if we could request and get a list of all town-owned land for the committee to review. And let's see what the town owns. I know a lot of it is owned by the state DCR, but I'd like to get a list through David George from the assessors of all town-owned land for the committee and for our review.
And also for the Regional Planning Commission to use in its analysis of maybe priority parcels in town that might be eligible for some kind of redevelopment, possibly?
I'd like to review it myself for open space, parks, recreation, or development.
But my question, are you also looking to have that used in analysis by the Regional Planning Commission as part of the master planning process in some way that ties into the goals and objectives of this project?
Okay. Yeah.
Wonderful. David, yeah, please provide that to us and we will review it alongside our known list of potential priority development areas, priority preservation areas, infrastructure areas, and see if we can work with you and the committee to narrow in on areas that might be suitable for some, for some new development, and then also focus in on some creative strategies in terms of, other alternatives.
Right. Just something else I was thinking about, we talk about not having enough land that can be, not enough existing land that's commercial, but I don't know how this plays out or who does this analysis, even if it's relevant to this project, but in areas like the TC, I don't know if those structures are fully built out in terms of the dimensional requirements, especially that's what's allowable by site plan. It's possible that there's a one-story building that could be made into a two and a half story building with more capacity for commercial. So we talk about land that's vacant or land that's available and built on, but what about existing structures that could be further modified to be a bigger box to support commercial activity, especially in the existing commercial zones?
Certainly. And I think that's a question that we'll certainly need to answer, so we can do a detailed assessment of remaining build out capacity of the town center district.
One will also include village center districts.
Town center and village center. All right, so we've got those notes, and we'll make sure that in terms of strategy articulation, we get those fully fleshed out for the next year. In terms of existing these 5,000-foot goals, anything else missing? Anything inconsistent with your perception of the town's needs or your feedback that you've received via the survey or from, anecdotal side conversations from residents, anything? How do these sit?
It's Leah.
Hi.
I think a little bit for goal number 1, I wholly agree with the first part, the encourage development of essential services within the town. And I struggle a little bit with focusing on grocery stores, restaurants, and then just kind of lumping other small businesses. There's a lot of talk, depending on if the Heights property goes through with the Harbor Homes and everything, the potential need for doctor's office in town or urgent care or, the medical services side. and other, kind of the services piece of, hair care, nails. There's some businesses in town already, but I wonder, we hear a lot that everyone wants a grocery store. That's been going on forever. But I just wonder that last kind of phrase, such as grocery stores, restaurants, and other small businesses, if we're focusing too much on a couple things and not necessarily, if this is supposed to be kind of our our high level look, if we're focusing too much on that, and then people focus on, well, we said 20 years ago we were going to get a grocery store and we don't have a market basket, so why don't we have, we're failing at this, and that's not necessarily an attainable goal.
That makes sense to me, Leah. We can certainly bring it back up to that higher level, and I think that's a valid and logical point. Unless anybody else on the committee disagrees, we can probably strike that. For me personally, the provision of essential services for me doesn't sound like business. And I don't know if, and one obviously can be, but I don't know if that is the best way to articulate what you're trying to do here. So encourage development of essential services within the town. Maybe rather than specifying those different types of businesses, you could maybe speak to something about two types of, essential, essential development of essential amenities. Maybe they're business amenities, such as retail and services or something. What do you guys think? How does this feel? Encourage development of essential services within the town. Does that feel like we're speaking about retail, doctor's offices, whatever business amenities that the town might be looking for?
I think a lot of people would think that means fire and police.
Me too.
Yeah.
So let's try to wordsmith that a little. Does that sound okay?
And I liked the piece about small businesses, because I think the survey data pointed to really kind of wanting this more small businesses, and not necessarily like a big, huge. I think there's a population that would be totally happy with a Walmart or Super Walmart or something, but I think the majority feels that they would rather have a smaller, more like town-friendly business, if that makes sense. I'm not really, less corporate-y feel or something. I'm not sure.
How about something along these lines? Encourage development of essential small business amenities such as retail and professional services. Maybe not even essential, because again, I think essential it harkens back to fire, police in my mind, but encourage development of small business amenities such as retail and professional services. What do you think?
Yeah, that's not, it's not pinning it down, like grocery stores and restaurants did before. But that's much wider range of inclusion.
Do we like the specificity of saying retail and professional services, or is it sufficient to say encourage development of small business amenities?
Instead of saying such as, could we do including retail and professional services? And that, this is maybe discussion for the committee, but I feel like including means that those are, two priorities, which I think did come out in our surveys as being priorities, but it's not limiting it. It kind of, to me, including allows for more mind wandering than kind of such as. I don't know. It's just a wordsmith thing, maybe.
No, I would agree. I think saying including also includes the home-based occupations, which Norm brought up earlier.
Yeah, I think I can buy that.
Yeah. If no other discussion on goal 1, let's just work through the other economic development goals. Do all of the other ones resonate with you and sit well with you?
I still have an issue on 1.
Okay, great.
I think the overall number 1 answer on the survey was a grocery store. I know it would not be easy getting one in town. Doesn't necessarily have to be a big name, Market Baskets Stop and Shop. There are other grocery stores. That's the number one need in the survey. I don't know, I think that should be in there. That's just my opinion.
If I can ask one question, so I recall what you're speaking about, and two things. One, we can get into more detailed strategy planning with more nuance in the objectives. I mean, we can do it either way, but that is one way that we can approach, narrowing in on focuses such as grocery stores or pharmacies or whatever they might be. We can take it in the next tier, more specific strategies. But if you do that, I would ask that, do you consider a grocery store or the type of grocery store that you think residents might be envisioned a small business? Because for me, I don't know if a Price Chopper or a Shaw's feels like a small business. But.
No, not a family owned, not necessarily, it's not small either. It's a fairly good size. I wouldn't call it small, but that's what I'm envisioning.
So would it be prudent to take out small from the goal? Would you want to say family owned, or perhaps is it encourage development of
I'm stuck on groceries. I don't know. I'm stuck on grocery store. Okay. But if you can assess it in a later part in the goals is fine.
Yeah, I think as an objective, I think the objective might be outreach to small to mid-sized markets, stuff like the 20,000 square foot kind of a market, which deals in a lot of local produce and things of that nature. You're talking about like 20,000 square foot, right? Something that maybe deals with local produce and things, Massachusetts orientation. So that's possible to identify who those entities are, that you outreach to that kind of a mid-scale size market, which are out there. Maybe that's an objective. And then that would kind of fit in with the flexibility that goal one encourages, with the objective being more specific.
It's Leah Dominique while you type that. I think, Dave, I like having that as an objective, and Mitch, I totally hear that we saw in the survey data that it's grocery store. The Rutland Marketplace is that small, family-owned, local business-owned grocery store. And so in the past, in different conversations, I've gotten a lot of pushback for suggesting a small grocery store. That we actually have one with Rutland Marketplace, and Honey Farms provides a lot of options also. So I think a lot of times when people say grocery store, it's in my conversations with people, they are thinking market basket is their number one want. They have all their hopes and dreams hung on the fact that we would get a market basket. So I guess I struggle a little bit with how those all align.
I have to agree on that.
If I may, sorry, go ahead.
No, we've got a Price Chopper in Gardner, we've got a Big Y in Holden. I think what the people are looking for is something like that here. I don't think they'd expect a Wegmans. Yeah, but like I say, I have to agree with Lee. I don't think when these people are talking about it that they're talking about having another, let's say, marketplace store.
No, I agree with that. That's not what I'm talking about. And I shop there, nice little market, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about more like, for an example, Goretti's in Millbury. It's not your Price Chopper Stop and Shop. Maybe we could get a Price Chopper Market Basket, Stop and Shop. I think that's what the people, I agree, are looking for. But when I'm talking about a smaller market, is a family-owned market like a Goretti's in Millbury. That's my thought. Even better, I think, if we can pull a Stop and Shop at Market Basket. That's a tougher job, but I'm not talking about the small family owned, I'm talking about the large family owned, but not as big as a supermarket.
Which is the same thing I was talking about too. One of them that comes to mind is the Concord Marketplace. It's about a 25,000 square foot building. It's not your super, what, are they 100,000 for their larger retail grocery? It's a much smaller, it's more oriented towards local produce and things. It's kind of like what Goretti's, but it's more of a local orientation of fresh produce, things grown in Massachusetts, which is different than what the Marketplace does. It's a matter of scaling up from the Marketplace, something in between the two. And I think that's what I was thinking of as well.
Absolutely, it's all local produce, I agree.
I can try to find a word for that sort of in between store. I mean, because grocery store is very broad, and we don't want to, you know, we don't want to promise, you know, a super Stop and Shop or whatever. But you know, certainly there's something in between like the convenience store and a supermarket.
Now, taking it back to, you know, what level of strategy articulation we're at, looking at goals. Mitch, do you feel comfortable do you still feel that this should be included as a goal, or do you think that having it as a next tier in terms of focusing on it as an objective is a valid approach?
Just my opinion, I'd like to see it as a goal. That's how I feel.
Well, you know, I think from my perspective, there's two ways to look at it. You know, even if it doesn't quite fit the mold, if something's really important, why not call it out? That's one way to look at it. I mean, bring extra level of attention and eyes to it. Can't hurt. How does the rest of the committee who's present tonight or other advisors feel?
I don't see it fitting with the character of the remaining goals.
It certainly is a level of detail that is certainly digging down more to a more detailed level of specificity.
Well, you know, definitely.
Yeah.
So,
I would agree. I like the high level.
you know, as long as, to my way of thinking, as long as it definitely gets in as an objective with good language, I think that would work. You know, like I say, I'm just looking for consistency in detail in all of those 5 goals. And I don't think there's anything in any of those others that is as specific as a grocery store. That's just the way I see it.
So we're not in consensus here. Other members of the committee, what do you think?
I like keeping the goal as it was. You know, I think maybe even changing the word retail to something that's more inclusive of just storefronts. You know, because I totally understand Mitch points that was very upfront, that you know, some sort of local grocery store. And I think having it as an objective, because I think we'll call out kind of more specifically the other services as well in our objectives, that would follow along pretty easily and be more consistent.
You could say commercial instead of retail. Just an idea.
Brian, I see you unmuted yourself.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say, like, I think that everybody wants a grocery store because Big Y sucks. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not like, oh my God, it's so far away. We have to go. Like, it's literally 10 minutes from any. Like, you can get to a decent store anywhere, but the biggest store around, if you want a bigger store versus hitting up the marketplace, which I mean, I live 2 seconds from the marketplace, so I go there all the time. Which I think serves that. I agree, it's not necessarily that mid-range capacity, but it beats driving to Holden, and they usually have everything I need. And then, but Big Y sucks. That's why nobody likes it. It's expensive and the stuff sucks. So, I think if that store was better, I don't know that we'd have as much clamoring for a grocery store personally. So I don't know that as people want a grocery store here as they just want another option even in a surrounding community. Obviously we can't do anything about that, but
Would there be a way to frame it around sort of the agricultural economy of Rutland? Because having some sort of permanent space that local farmers could sell to, I mean, you know, Kate might be able to speak to like the economics of that better than I could, but that might be one way to frame it. If Brian, if and you know, I suspect you're probably right that it's about having an option that's maybe, you know, nicer than what exists in town.
I don't necessarily mean it to be like rude or anything about it. It's just,
oh yeah,
the food isn't great and it's expensive. Like I don't like it, but
yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, a lot of the
That's
towns in the
right.
region, we've heard similar things that they want a grocery store, and even if it might not make sense, I don't know. I feel like encouraging something connected to like the agricultural identity of Rutland could be I don't know. Maybe I'm just brainstorming too much, but
Yeah, so you're thinking something like I've spent a long time since I've explored the agriculture sector, but like the Hardwick Farmers Co-op or some of those other places that are a little bit different models of.
yeah, actually a co-op could be like, you know, they have those in other rural parts of the state and the region, something like that, because you know, again, we're talking a smaller scale, but maybe more specialized produce and items. That's a little, you know, like people are saying, a little more mid-range.
So I've taken down some notes on this. I want to make sure we stay on track, but work through this to the extent that's needed by everyone. Is there any way that anything we can do? So goal 1 right now, what I have written is encourage development of small business amenities, including commercial and professional services, with a next level strategy objective of, you know, focusing in on grocery stores in particular, among other things, which are yet to be developed.
I'm happy with it.
Maybe we can move on and work towards workshopping that, perhaps with other members of the master plan committee present, or through, you know, getting some community input. Okay, so let's see the other goals. How do you feel about them? Does everything else work? If no immediate comment, we can move on to the land use goals. So goal 1, encourage development that is in harmony with the community's rural New England character and heritage. Goal 2, develop strategies to preserve agricultural land, support the existing agricultural community, and encourage the growth of local agricultural and agribusiness. Goal 3, concentrate new development around existing infrastructure to protect natural resources and improve walkability. Goal 4, create a plan to acquire and or preserve open space and facilitate public access of these spaces for active and passive recreation. That seems, I need to go back over that, but it seems objective level to me. Goal 5, identify strategies for improving parking and traffic congestion issues in Rutland Town Center. How do these strike you at second pass?
It's Leah.
Hi, Leah.
For goal 5, I wonder if we can take out instead of saying Rutland Town Center, just around town or something, because I feel like right now the current focus is town center, but in 10, 15, 20 years, you know, Four Corners may be developed more, and that may create some congestion. And even down past town center, down at the town line with the marketplace and everything, Blair Market and everything that goes in there. So I wonder if that specifying a location is too specific again for this high level.
I think that seems to improve it. What do you all think? Identify strategies for improving parking Identify strategies for improving parking and traffic congestion issues. We can just say traffic congestion.
Is this goal, do you think, best used in the land use section?
It's so many of these are interdisciplinary, and truly they could be in multiple buckets. Parking and traffic congestion. I think you're right. It does kind of lose some of its immediacy and relevance to land use when you take out this mention of Rutland Town Center. As stated, this could go in the transportation section, which is of course forthcoming.
I think that might be where it's more applicable at this point.
Let's look at these collectively as a integrated whole and make sure that we haven't missed any core topics in land use. Goal 1, so encourage development and harmony. Okay, so balancing development with, again, preservation of what makes Rutland special, preserving that important character and heritage. Goal 2, focusing on preserving and strengthening the ag community through proper land use strategies. Great. Goal 3, concentrate new development around existing infrastructure to protect natural resources and improve walkability. This is about, not having sprawl, not building on your pastures and your essential view sheds, and so concentrating development so that you don't have to have unnecessary use of resources, whether that's, whatever infrastructure. That could be roadways, it could be sidewalks. If you had, public sewer, could be sewer. I don't remember right now. So that seems to make sense for land use goals. And finally, goal 4, create a plan to acquire and or preserve open space and facilitate access to these spaces for active and passive recreation. Clearly, this is an important goal, and it's suitable to the land use section as well as some other upcoming sections. It's kind of specific. So I might suggest retooling that one a little bit, if you would agree.
What would be your suggestion then, Dominique?
Boy, wordsmithing on the spot. Let's see. Preserve open space. Something, maybe certainly preserving or facilitating preservation of open space for passive and active recreation. Preserve and encourage use of open space for active and passive recreation, something like that.
Could it be preserve open space and encourage use for active and passive recreation or something like that?
Well, that's a great one. Preserve open space and encourage use. Say it again. Preserve open space and encourage use for active and passive recreation. That one seems much more 5,000 foot. Whereas creating plans and other sort of things would be objective level strategies. Okay, so this one's going to go goal 5. The recommendations based on traffic and congestion are going to go to the transportation section. There does seem to be missing something here. Does anybody see what it is?
Sorry, what are we looking for?
So I was just thinking, there does seem to be missing something about. It's almost like it's one of the goals that's in the housing section. Let me go up. That would be something along these lines to be well here. Oh yes, so identify key areas for specific types of development within the town and create mechanisms to encourage development in those areas. That goal 2 under economic development kind of seems like it's better suited as a land use goal. Let's just copy it and see how we feel about it situated within that context. Let's see. Do you think identify key areas for specific types of land use within the town and create mechanisms to encourage such uses in those areas? So this speaks to just, mechanisms such as zoning, etc., different sorts of policies and strategies.
Well, is the focus of this section to be more natural resource land use or just general land use? Because we seem to focus on the natural resources.
Yeah, so the focus of this section is not natural and environmental land uses in particular. So sometimes people will write this chapter last because it really, in some ways, it could be seen as the foundation for a whole bunch of different types of development strategies, or like this, what synthesizes them. You could look at it either way, but it will need to encourage both the built environment, both the built and natural environment. Let's put it that way.
I think it fits very well in land use.
Sure. Does everybody else feel that is a useful goal to have in here? In this
I was just going to say, I agree, because especially with having that there, and then where your cursor is right now, updating to goal 4, the concentrate new development around the existing infrastructure, it kind of talks to that building aspect that Melissa was just asking about of land use versus the natural. So I think that adding that here helps balance the land use with both the built and natural.
David George, what do you think? As one of the preeminent land use experts on this phone call.
I appreciate the compliment. I mean, the consensus, I'm not taking issue with the consensus on including that here.
All right, let's go back up to economic development and make sure we're not being redundant in our goals. Although, again, things can be relevant in multiple buckets, there's no reason to be redundant in our articulation. So goal 2, identify key areas for specific types of development within the town and create mechanisms to encourage development in those areas. I think one could argue that this can be removed. We will do that under land use, we'll do that for economic development, we'll do it for preservation properties, we'll do it for, for different types of categories. So can we remove this goal reasonably? No objections, I think. Let me know if you want it brought back, but otherwise it's gone from there. So that means that unless there's any other thoughts, that means there's just one goal that seems that we haven't reached consensus on, at least as far as I can tell, which is goal 1 of economic development, which as written is encourage development of small business amenities, including commercial and professional services, and members of the existing committee. Some committee members present feel that we should be a little bit more specific. If we could reach consensus, we could perhaps, we can start working on, objective articulation and action items now. I think we've already, some of them are quite clear and we've already started. We can also, so it won't hold us up if you can't vote on these, but at some point, I think it makes sense to bring both the vision statement and your draft goals to the community to get their buy-in. So until you've agreed on these collectively, I think that might be a little hard to do. What do you guys think? Would you want to circulate them to the rest of the committee and then perhaps bring them to the community in some shape or form?
I would love to think that maybe at our next meeting, we will have a little bit better attendance. And that would then be the time to, finalize this last one. Just a thought.
Well, I think, so Mr. Chairman, we're at 8:30 and there are a few other things. How would you like to proceed with the rest of the agenda?
Well, I don't know, you have something about photo contest next.
So we have, and then there's one other item we can take under unanticipated business. But so we do need to collect some additional images for development of the master plan. I think we've probably taken drone footage already. If not, that's pending, but we'll be flying drones to capture some aerials, and I think fall will be a nice time to do that. However, I think often it's very effective to solicit photos from community members. Some of my colleagues in the past have had success using photo contests. It might be an appropriate time to start that, especially with fall foliage season coming, if you would like to launch a photo contest.
If I may, through the chair.
Yes.
It's Leah. I think the 300th committee is working also on obtaining photos from the public. So I think we're hoping to close submissions of that maybe today even. So I can follow up with that committee and see what they have before. I like the aspect of master plan doing it to get more engagement from the public. But I just want to make sure that we're not kind of doing 2 or 3 or 4 photo contests all at the same time.
So that's wonderful to hear. I'm so sorry I wasn't aware of the 300th committee doing that. So if sounds like that's a great opportunity to save your outreach and engagement. How do you say it? To save your efforts and people's interest in terms of getting maybe feedback on the goals and vision rather than duplicating photo contest efforts then. As such, the only other thing that I was hoping to speak with you all tonight is I think at the last meeting you requested a timeline. So we have one fleshed out tentatively, and I can walk you through that if you'd like.
Sounds good.
Okay, let me pull that up then. Where are you? Give me just a second, please. Stop sharing.
Need help with the timeline?
Nope, I've got it now. I'm so sorry. Since I had shut it down, I need to pull it up in my my Dropbox, our Dropbox rather. Okay, so you can all see this. Okay, so we are in September right now. So phase 1 of the master plan runs through June of 2022. So the first 3 phases of the master plan are due to the state as well as all of you in June of 2022 at the very latest. So I think that you're tracking very well for all of that. Additionally, probably within the next 2 to 4 weeks, we will know whether your next 2 chapters of the master plan have been funded through a grant that David and CMRPC worked to apply for. So we're very optimistic that the next round of funding will be allocated soon. And since you've already done so much visioning work and survey work and other things, I'm confident that we can also finish drafting those chapters by June of 2022, which means you'll have all but 2 chapters done by then. So, the other 2 chapter developments will be contingent upon funding, but you'll have a plan largely in place with updated chapters for 5 elements of updated vision statement, updated goals, and the rest will be pretty easy. And if additional funding sources become available, we will before then we'll certainly work to also loop those in towards an integrated timeline. So right now we're at September 21. This is obviously 2021. So we need to be finalizing the vision and goals for the existing chapters and working on strategy articulation. On our side, we are beginning to develop the objectives, and we're bringing those to you for the next meeting. In October, the goals for the month will be launching a vision. Well, we had envisioned launching a vision and goals survey to solicit feedback. You could also do that through, a Zoom workshop or other ways. But we recently launched a vision and goals survey rather than doing a workshop, and found that saved some of our outreach and engagement capital. Let's see, we'll be working further on the draft objectives. At CMRPC, we're going to need to start conducting some key informant interviews or focus groups. It's amazing. You have such a talented group of people on the committee with various expertises and areas of knowledge, but we'll need to start working to bring in those people and really sit down with them and get a really robust understanding of different topics, more than we have now. In October, we will continue strategy articulation and then begin preparing action items. So in the next month, we'll be working to really narrow down on the next two tiers of how we help you advance your vision, or how you can advance your vision. In November, we've been hoping to review results of the vision and goal survey, and continuing with key informant interviews, finishing up the objectives, and launching photo contest or capitalizing on other holiday time events for for community engagement. Again, in November, we expect to know whether the next round of this plan has been funded. In December, we expect to be finishing up our key informant interviews and focus groups. We expect to have all of the strategies fully developed, but the goals finalized, the objectives finalized, and the action items finalized, and then ready to, having fully workshopped them with you. We hope to be sharing them with other subject matter experts, such as the Board of Selectmen and other committees, to make sure that they've had a fair opportunity to provide their expertise and weigh in. And we expect to close a new vision and goal survey then, and be done all the mapping. So in January 2022, we'd like to be, and again, this is fluid, where, if things happen more quickly, we can, advance the timeline. And if things are taking a little longer, but again, all of it will be done by June 2022, these one or two phases. So January 2022, we covered that. So February, we're going to be working, January, review strategy feedback from local subject matter experts. So again, the BOS and committees will have weighed in. We'll be reviewing any results of any photos, and debriefing any holiday time events, and sharing results of the vision survey. February, we're going to be drafting chapters and putting into story maps, which I know we discussed this to some extent. So as previously mentioned, online interactive version of a master plan, which is the way all of ours in the last year have moved. So an online interactive, engaging master plan with a nice, tight, written, concise executive summary and summary chapters to go along with it. And for those who might not be able to fully utilize the online format. Okay, so that's what we'll be doing in February, is finishing up chapters and putting the story maps. In March, we'll be polishing those draft chapters and story maps and providing you all with draft chapters and looking for feedback. In April, we'll be incorporating, your feedback and working on revisions and working on detailed implementation matrix that articulates, for example, all of the action items, all of the objectives, and who should be involved in undertaking them, what potential funding sources, working to identify whether they should be low, medium, high priority. So really developing, a workable document that you can use rather than having to flip through this master plan to try to do implementation. And also working on the executive summary in April. In May, we will complete the implementation matrix and executive summary and share all the materials that we've been working with you to develop with the Board of Selectmen and other local subject matter experts, such as the committees and focus groups. And then in June 2022, we will incorporate all edits for the BOS and others and make a presentation with you for phase 1 and phase 2 to the community. So that's, sorry if that was kind of long-winded. I hope that clears things up in terms of the phases, the funding sources, and the end goal for phase 1 and hopefully phase 2. Questions, thoughts, feedback?
It's Leah. This is really helpful. I was starting to stress because for some reason I had kind of the December, January timeline in my head that that's when everything was due. And I was like, I had like a massive panic attack the other night. And so this is really helpful and calms my nerves. So thank you.
I wish I could tell you that the full comprehensive master plan would be complete in June 2022, but without a grant that magically pops up and provides funding fairly soon, you know, I just don't know how we can do the phase 3, but phase 1 and phase 2 will be done by June 2022.
Looks like a lot of work.
Yeah, you've done a lot of work already, but there's a lot more, especially on the back end. My recommendation is that my recommendation is to try to keep momentum and keep on meeting, try to keep on pushing for quorum. And I think that would be excellent, but a lot of this is on the back end now. You've provided us with a vision, you've provided us with the community goals, you've completed a community survey, the data's been collected, now it's synthesizing all of it and, you know, fleshing it out with some nuance and then working with you to refine it. So you've done a lot of the hard stuff that you need to do. I have nothing else, Mr. Chairman, on this unless somebody has questions or you'd like to talk through it more.
Next meeting date?
It's the last Thursday of October in the calendar.
Which is
The 28th.
28th of October.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any? I already know I work that Thursday, but I can do the Thursday before or after, which would be the 21st of October or November 4th. They always seem to line up, these meetings.
I could do a week earlier, but I couldn't do a week later.
Was that the third Thursday? Is the
Yes.
22nd the third Thursday?
The 21st.
I'd have a conflict that night, but if you needed to meet without me, feel free. I have a long-standing obligation on those third Thursdays. It's a separate commitment.
Wondering about.
Excuse me, did I just hear you trying to set up a meeting for the third Thursday of next month?
Yeah.
This room is booked.
Thanks, Peter.
You're welcome.
Well, it takes care of that, I guess.
Okay, so that's out.
Not to say you can't all meet through Zoom.
True.
But
So
if you
from
do, please make sure it's
CMRPC
recorded.
side, I can make it, as long as Gabe or I can make it, then I think.
Yeah, so far I can make either day. The only thing also to keep in mind is for the November and December meetings, we're definitely not going to be able to do that last. We're probably not going to be able to do those last Thursdays because we'll be coming up on Thanksgiving and then like I think basically Christmas and New Year's. So reassessing the overall schedule probably would make sense. If we want to revisit that at the next meeting, that's fine. But the last Thursday of December is the day before New Year's Eve. And then the last Thursday of November is Thanksgiving. So it might make sense to think this through.
I don't know, I would say let's stick with our regular pattern and hope for the best. It sounds like going around it any other way just doesn't work.
Mr. Chairman, did somebody say the room is not booked and that it would be therefore advantageous to do it by Zoom if we're going to stick by the 20th, or did I misunderstand?
If we were going to do it on the 21st, it would have to be via Zoom. Solely. Dave, have you ever set up like a doodle poll for scheduling?
No.
I can if that's something you'd be interested to send over to the members. Picking, we can even pick a couple days in the 2 weeks in the last week of October to see what people might be the most available on.
Just gotta, like I say, just gotta watch out for, conflicts. 'Cause I'm pretty sure why that third is not available is probably Earthworks, which I'm on as well, so.
That was originally when we went around this, in the big picture, we figured Thursday was the best day in general, but not all Thursdays, because
Yeah.
Earthworks, and then the Monday doesn't work,
Tuesdays doesn't work,
Tuesday because of, right, Wednesdays were
hit or miss.
hit or miss, Thursdays, I mean, maybe a Wednesday, was there more flexibility on a Wednesday?
Wednesday might be.
I have more flexibility on a Wednesday than
Me
those,
too.
than the third Thursday.
Yeah, I have the Concom I work for, we meet every 3 weeks on Thursdays, which happens to always be the, almost always the last
Maybe we
Thursdays.
could try to advocate for Wednesdays.
That's just, what about what's the Wednesday before the last Thursday?
27th?
27th.
That works for me, for sure.
How does that sound for anybody else that's here? Wednesday instead of Thursday.
On the
27th.
consent side, I think I can do it. Either Gabe or I will do it.
Yep, it works for me so far, so I'll book it.
What everybody else did you get?
Mitch?
Yeah, well, right now I can make it. My schedule 30 days out can change, but as of right now,
Brian?
Like, the 27th should work.
Leah?
Yeah, I should be able to make Wednesdays in general work. The 27th looks good so far.
So, and I'll
Let's do it.
ask everybody else, or just let everybody else know that. Maybe Wednesdays going forward will be the better day than a Thursday.
At least for the
Wednesdays-
holidays, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also to respect your schedule, I realize it's been a conflict. No,
No.
it's,
Okay.
I don't know if that would help. I know I see a couple other people that haven't been showing up either, so maybe that might help too.
the only potential wild card that we can work around this is the RDIC and the HPDD board likes to meet on Wednesdays, but they're idle at the moment pending some development up the hill, so. But we can play that by ear.
I won't schedule an open space meeting.
Okay, with that, if there is no other business to come before the board, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a
Waitman
second?
seconds.
Okay. Okay, roll call.
Danza, aye.
Mitch,
I.
Brian,
Aye.
Leah,
Whiteman, aye.
Anderson, aye. We are adjourned. Thank you all, people, very, very much.